You're listening to the Contented Catcast from St. Claus Academy with Lisa Sinnott. Email stclausacademy@gmail.com.
So I'm really delighted to be here with Nadia Davies today. Nadia is the Director of Business Development at Solihull College and University Centre. She is an educator in feline welfare and behaviour, and she studied with International Cat Care, a fantastic organisation, and she's got an advanced certificate. Sorry, what's the FB stand for?
Feline behaviour.
Feline behaviour. Okay, great. So how was that? How was that course?
Amazing, absolutely amazing. I loved every minute of it, and it could relate all of it to the experiences that I'd had, and I've been able to use so much of that since. So it's really valuable. The course that keeps giving.
Amazing. How have you used it with your own cats? I met Spartan on camera, who's gorgeous.
Yeah, Spartan was here at the beginning having a brush on camera. For starters, one of the later modules that I studied was all about caring for older cats and cats that were reaching their grand old years. And at the time, I had a very old cat. So it was really, really timely, because what I was able to learn were some of the things that I could do at home to make her life a little bit more comfortable, and recognise some of the signs of aging in cats, and something that's quite common, which is cognitive dysfunction, and the different types of behaviours associated with that. And then little things like making sure that her name was Whoopi, as in the cushion. I didn't name her. She was a rescue, and she was a beautiful cat. And I was able to put some aids in the house so that she could still access her favourite places, despite having arthritic joints and aches and pains that most older cats and dogs are subject to, and humans.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also, one of the key things that I remember actually really valuing about what I was learning at the time was how to assess her quality of life.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when you've had a cat for a long time and you've seen them move through their different life stages and observe what they enjoy, sometimes you reach a point where you start to question as an owner, they slow down, their life slows down. You try to do as much as you can to accommodate. And I think lots of owners think, will I know when the time's right? Should we be carrying on? Is enough? It was helpful in terms of giving me a bit of a framework, I suppose, to assess that quality of life and think about, actually, it's about living more than just existing. Yeah. So considering, what does she get from life that actually is fulfilling as well as surviving? And there were so many things that she still really, really enjoyed, and I know she enjoyed because of her reaction to things. I always made sure that she had plenty of warm places for sunbathing, for example, and she loved companionship and affection. So we just spent as much time together as we could while we had each other. And then I really felt that when the end did come, that I'd done absolutely everything that I could have done, and that she really had that quality of life right up until the end. She was able to keep all of her freedoms as well. So she didn't used to go very far, but we'd go out together and enjoy some of the sunny spots in the garden when it was nice. And then within a year of losing Whoopi at an old age, I was working in a rescue shelter at the time, and it was just before Christmas, and a tiny little kitten was found in Birmingham on a fence. The vet thinks he was probably 5 weeks old, so far too young to have become split from his mom and siblings, but he had been somehow. And he came into us, and he needed a loving home, and I had a space in my heart ready for another feline friend. So he came to live with me. His name was Spooks, And really, that was like an opportunity to start with a blank canvas. I got all this knowledge that I'd learned all about cats as a species, how to respect them, how to give them the best life, the life that a cat would choose. Plenty of opportunities to optimize my own home.
Yeah. How did you do that for Spook?
Oh, wow. Spooks ended up to be quite the character, really. He, first and foremost, it was about the introductions, because I had another 2 cats already. So we had the fact he was a very, very young cat. And I was conscious that that was potentially going to be problematic, because he'd missed out on some really, really key time with his mom and with his siblings, where cats learn really, really important social skills. And so that was something that I was really going to need to keep an eye on, because he'd missed that. That was going to be a critical part of integrating him here. So we went really, really slowly. And I think all my cats have been confined to the room that I'm in now, which is our spare room, when they first arrived. Not for a set period of time, for as long as they needed to become confident, to give me a sign that they're ready to go beyond the door. And then very, very slow introductions to the other cats, because, of course, respecting their home is equally as important for them. So we did very, very gradual introductions, and I had one fairly old cat at that time, and one who's old now, but he was kind of middle-aged, I suppose, then. And one of the key things there was making sure that they got plenty of space, because Spooks was, to say lively is an understatement.
Right.
He was absolutely, I don't know how many Zoomies we did a day, but it was a real live wire. Had an absolute zest for life. So making sure that he had plenty of opportunity to play, exercise his wild side, without interfering too much with the tranquility of old age that my other 2 were enjoying. So that was one of the things, and making sure that we had plenty of resources, again, to aid the sort of harmonious multi-cat household that you need, really, for cats to live comfortably alongside each other. So plenty of resources. So I thought carefully, once he was released into the wild, so to speak, that he'd got his own place for eating, and that he wasn't interfering with the others. I think because we did that so gradually, and I also rewarded the calm behaviour of the other cats around Spooks, and vice versa, so that they quickly became used to associating each other's company with a reward. And therefore, looking for that reassurance and that reward, as opposed to associating each other's company with some sort of threat or negative experience.
How it's perceived, isn't it? Because if you're older, and I don't know, someone talked about it, like if you're a granddad, and then you've got, I think it was Sarah Whitehead, she's talking about dogs. Yeah, it was. If you've got an old granddad, and then you've got like this, very exuberant grandchild, like jumping all over you, it might be that their intention is to play, but it's not how you're perceiving it. It's how you're feeling about, if you're arthritic or sore, or it's how it's perceived. It's not what the intention is.
And also with Spooks as well, because he hadn't learnt those skills, because he'd been separated too soon. I know that in a litter, and this was one of the pleasures of working in rescue for so long, was observing so many litters from day 1, newborn, right the way up to sort of 12 weeks-ish, and all of that really, really valuable development that happens over those weeks, and how the play gets a little bit rougher every week, but they soon learn what's acceptable and what's not. He really, he missed out there, and sadly lots of other cats do with the early experiences that they have. And as a result of that, he was quite a bitey cat.
Right.
Only through play. But of course, he never learned, and I as a person, we don't bite back, so he never learned when enough was enough. But because I understood why, where those behaviours had come from, I was able to manage our playtime to make sure that A, he got enough, and B, what we were playing with was suitable for him for biting and getting that aggression out. And of course, never. The mistake lots of people make is associating that type of behaviour with the word naughty. And cats aren't naughty. There's no such thing as naughty in a cat's world. Cats respond to their surroundings, and their behaviours are emotions which manifest physically. So yeah, plenty of play, keeping him calm, understanding that those bitey moments were purely play and not aggression.
Yeah.
And then as Spooks got a bit older, very sadly, he was diagnosed at 1.5 with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And so our next challenge at that point, he also had a respiratory symptoms that were actually led to the diagnosis, because often, I'm sure you're aware, that's something that isn't easily diagnosed. But he was having some respiratory problems, and he was prescribed with an inhaler, an AeroCat inhaler that I'd never ever experienced before in my life. And was given virtually no instruction on how to use it, other than don't do the press it down so it goes right by him, because it's the type of noise that sounds like a hiss, and it's the type of noise that's likely to send the cat bolting in the other direction. That was the only advice that was given to me. So I thought, right, we've got this contraption here. I've got to do what is really unnatural for a cat, really invasive, to hold this on his face. The funnel that comes with the AeroCat inhaler is quite potent because it's rubber. So not only is it really restrictive contraption, it's also very, very strong smelling and really peculiar looking to a cat. So what I was actually able to do, I did a video diary of this at the time, was we went through a process of training for him to learn how to respond calmly to the initially the sight of the inhaler, followed by the very, very gradual construction of the inhaler. So we started off just the funnel on its own on the floor, nothing else around. And he would show some interest in the funnel. And then, in exactly the same way as you train dogs, using clicker training, we used exactly the same techniques. And then we gradually built up over a number of weeks to the point where he was confident for me to hold with very, very little pressure elsewhere on him, to tolerate having the inhaler on his face for long enough for him to take a few breaths as he needed to. Now, that's something I'd never have had the skills to do or the knowledge to have done without having done this course. In fact, I wouldn't even have known that you could train cats. So that was really, really valuable learning for me. So we crammed an awful lot into he lived to be 3.5. He got more than 9 lives into those 3.5 years, I'm quite sure. And I really feel as though, although our time was cut significantly shorter than it should have been, I was able to really, really say, hand on heart, that I gave him the best possible life that he could have had. And because of the understanding of one of the most valuable things I think that I learned overall was how important it is for cats to be in control at all times. So with all of the medication that went hand in hand with him living with that condition, I applied the principles of him being in control, which actually meant that it didn't become a relationship of constant struggling and, rugby tackling medication down his neck. he had all of his medication multiple times throughout the day with virtually no restraint. And that was because I learned how to do that in a way that respected his need for space and minimal handling.
It's amazing.
So I'm eternally grateful to International Cat Care for all of that fabulous insight and knowledge, and I suppose giving me the tools to be compassionate in terms of how I create a life for my cats. And of course, now with Spartan, who's blind, that's starting all over again with a completely different set of needs. However, understanding cats as a species and what's important to them in terms of, again, being in control. He's no different because of he doesn't have any sight, but he definitely likes to be in control. He needs his own resources. He needs to be respected and still have the opportunity to perform his natural behaviours. You know, he still wants to chase things, and he does plenty of that. And all of those things are really, really important. It's just that every time we start again, it's about getting to know that cat as an individual and just, I suppose, slightly adjusting what we do with each cat, just to make sure that they can live their life as a cat, which is what they deserve to.
Absolutely. What do you think are the biggest challenges cats face in this day and age? Obviously, they've like so many cats have got lovely comfy beds, you know, the best food, you know, vet treatment, all of that. What do you think you see that are red flags for you for cats in this day and age?
So there are a few things. I think there are a number of issues. I suppose the biggest one that we need to tackle is how people are acquiring cats initially. So cat shelters across the country are absolutely inundated, bursting at the seams, and having to turn cats away because they're full. And then you've got people adjacent to that who are selling cats and kittens on sites such as Facebook, which I think is the predominant site for purchasing cats, and Pre-Loved and Gumtree, and it's people who are breeding cats for money, who don't understand cats, so who are giving lives to people without giving the appropriate advice and guidance and care, often allowing cats to leave for new homes far too young. And we've already talked about some of the issues of that. Now, cats that are separated too soon can have all sorts of behavioural issues when they become older, because of that precious time that they have missed out on, because of those social lessons that they haven't learned. Now, I was willing to tolerate Spooksy's bitey behaviour because I understood why it was there. Lots of people do refer to it as naughty, and lots of people aren't willing to tolerate it. And if people have children, often it can be quite a problem. So what then happens is that irresponsible breeding and lack of information that's given to people manifests as problem behaviours in homes, which people aren't then willing to tolerate, or don't have the patience to perhaps work through. Those cats are then relinquished, abandoned, and it's a cycle. And the shelter full. So that's one problem. The other problem is pedigree cats and undesirable breeds owned by celebrities.
Tell us about
Cats then unfortunately become a fashion statement.
Yeah.
And bred for undesirable features. I know there's been a lot in the press about the Scottish fold, which is one of the breeds where cats are subject to significant health problems throughout their lives. So that's another concern, is breeding and irresponsible breeding and homing. Then I think the other two issues, one is social media and I suppose the culture of entertainment value on social media. And a lot of people like cats, and they like to see cats, and they like to show other people their cats.
Yeah.
But it's often done in a way which I don't think is usually, it probably is never intentionally damaging to the cats, but because people don't understand how sensitive cats are as a species, certainly how emotionally sensitive they are, people often don't understand what the risk is of, for example, putting a cat in clothing for entertainment value, and what that cat experiences as a result of being restricted to having a t-shirt put on or a Halloween costume put on for the sake of getting likes and interaction on social media. And there's a lot of videos that I see and pictures at the moment. I know it's the algorithm, but at the moment it's continuously cats with crocheted hats on that keep cropping up on my social media pages. It makes me feel so sad, because you only have to look at the facial expression of the cat to see how unhappy they are. And what people don't realise is that there's a term called learned behaviour, which is really, really sad term. And it relates to cats who have almost given up. So they won't fight back because they actually know there is no point. And often people think if the cat lets you put something on, that means they like it. But actually, we ought to think if they liked it, they would go and put it on themselves, quite frankly, which is never going to happen.
They can't groom themselves.
No, and cats are so tactile, and there's so many places on a cat where they are sensitive, and they need that to know where they are in their surroundings. And some of the things are really, really, restricting. I do have one exception, which I always point out to that rule about clothing for cats, because I am aware that sometimes following surgery, it's the lesser of two evils. The cone of shame or a soft t-shirt for recovery purposes, which is completely different, because that's done with the cat's best interests at heart. But videos, there's so many, and it's sad. So I'd like to see people on social media really learning more about cats and what makes cats happy, and sharing videos of cats being cats, because quite frankly, if you understand about cats and you love cats, seeing them being cats in their natural environment is so much more entertaining than some of the silly things that you get.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, there's the money making side of the cat industry. And I think people just need to think really carefully about things that are available to buy in some shops, things that are available to visit or go to, and people need to decide before they spend their money on those types of activities whether those activities or those products are gimmicks, as I would call them, to make money, or whether they have the cat's best interests at heart. And in order to assess that and evaluate that, I would always consider, what is the cat subject to? Does it detract from whatever their natural behaviours would be?
Yeah. So
does it restrict them in any way?
Hiding, do you mean like things?
So what I mean by that is, So for example, some of the things that you can buy that I would say gimmicky as an example are backpacks that cats sit in. You've seen the ones with the little windows in?
Yeah.
So people see those and think, oh, it's so cute. The cat's peeping out, the cat's watching out the back. Well, they've probably got no choice because that's the only way they can be crammed into the backpack.
Yeah.
And a cat in that sort of situation isn't in control. They don't know where they are. It's not a natural environment for a cat. And I think every cat has the right to perform natural behaviours in an environment that represents the environment that they would choose for themselves, one that they can feel in control. So being able to hide, for example, being able to choose to leave, being able to get up high, not being subject to unnecessary handling, restraint, transport, restriction in terms of clothing or any sort of garments, hats, those types of things. I would always consider, what is the impact of some of these activities and some of these products for a cat? Is that what the cat would choose?
Or is that what we want?
Or is that what we want for either entertainment value or for profit?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, and don't get me wrong, I mean, there are certain things that I've experienced which I, at the time, hadn't perhaps given full consideration to.
Yeah.
So, are you happy for me to talk about cat shows as an example?
Yeah, please.
So, a few years ago, probably going back 10 years ago, for a number of years, used to attend a cat show, predominantly because it was an opportunity to buy loads of new cat beds and cat toys before so much stuff was available online and things that I hadn't seen before. And I used to love going and coming back with armfuls of things for my cats. And it was interesting to see different breeds of cats and talk to some of the retailers. But unfortunately, what became apparent over a number of years, and I started to become more concerned about, was the welfare of the cats at the show.
Yeah.
And actually how detrimental that presence was to their being.
Why do you think that is? Like, for someone who's listening to this kind of thing, why wouldn't it be okay? What kind of things?
So, for starters, the actual environment is loud, very loud. Exceptionally, the exhibition centres where these shows tend to take place, very, very high ceilings, huge rooms, masses, hundreds of people, all sorts of people, announcements. So from a sensory perspective, really, really, really not ideal for a start. This is without considering the transportation of how the cats got there in the first place. And I know from talking to breeders, we're talking hundreds of miles that some of these cats have travelled, including often overnight stays if said show isn't near to where the breeder lives. Then my biggest concern, and actually this concern led me to make the decision not to attend shows going forward, was the actual makeup of the individual cages for some of the cats at the shows. So some owners had gone to great lengths to make sure that the cage in which the cat was housed for that particular day of the show had got lots of things in it that their cats could hide behind.
Wow.
So the cats are placed in like aisles, if you like, where people can walk up and down and up and down, and people can go right up to the cages. That there are signs to say you can't touch the cats.
People do it anyway, or
Say it again.
do people do that anyway?
To be fair, most of the behaviour that I saw from people visiting the shows was respectful. But you can never say always. I mean, I suppose a good way of looking at it would be to say to me as an owner, would you have put your cat in that position? To be subject to all of that massive sensory overload, exposure to hundreds of people, even if they weren't being touched, just looking, being that close, really isn't ideal. And there's no way in the world that I would subject my cat to that unless it was going to be for their benefit.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because sometimes cats have to go through things. They have to go to the vets, or
of course,
for their well-being. They might have to, I don't know, move house temporarily. Say, for example, if someone, like a victim survivor, is fleeing an abusive relationship and staying with their cat in maybe a hotel room. But it's weighing that cost up, isn't it? Like, who is this for? Who's benefit from this?
There are things that we know we can do now to help cats to tolerate those types of things that you just mentioned. So training cats is still a relatively new concept. There is a fantastic book called The Trainable Cat.
Oh yeah, Sarah Ellis. Yeah,
Sarah Ellis and John Bradshaw, which is a fabulous read. Any level, you don't need to be a cat behaviourist or have done any prior learning necessarily in this area to thoroughly enjoy this book and be able to start to apply the principles with your own cat. The idea is not to train cats as circus creatures, not to do tricks, although there's no reason why you couldn't teach a cat to do tricks if it was something that they enjoyed. But the idea is about helping people to understand that cats are really, really good learners and that they like learning, how to teach cats, train cats, and then think about how can we use that to our advantage to help them to cope with some of the things that we need them to in order to keep them healthy and safe, like you've just said. So one of the things, I mean, a really, really a good piece of advice that anyone can take away from this today, which is an example of a tiny little change that can make a massive difference, is to stop keeping your cat carrier in the shed or in the garage. I used to do that. Most people do, because quite often they're unsightly and we don't have space. But what that means is every time then the cat sees you with this contraption, they think, oh no, here we go again. I know what this means. And you won't see them for 48 hours. Whereas, and largely, that's because it smells musty. They're not used to the smell or the sight, and they associate that item with often a negative experience. So simply by having the cat basket as a permanent feature in your home, possibly putting a fleece or a blanket over it, that quickly becomes a day-to-day object. And over time, they become desensitized to the sight of the basket. And then you can even start to associate it with positive experiences, such as feeding, such as treats, such as comfy naps, little things like that. But there are steps that you can follow to train cats to stay calm and to tolerate these things, which then helps with travel for any types of circumstances. It can help with medicating cats. Can also train cats to, some cats, as you saw at the beginning of today's session, like Spartan, love to be brushed.
Yeah, he loves loving it.
Some don't, but they've got coats that really do need a little bit more care. So by understanding how cats learn and what motivates cats, we can use those techniques to help those cats to tolerate being brushed, which in turn perhaps stops them from getting lugs, which is painful and uncomfortable and that type of thing. So it's so, and as I say, I mean, I was able to use the same techniques to help Spooks to tolerate his inhaler. I've done some training with Spartan so that he'll let me have a look at his teeth.
Amazing.
And that was a challenge because with regards to motivation, most cats are motivated by food. We have an extra challenge with Spartan because not only is he blind, but he's also on a hydrolyzed diet because he has inflammatory bowel disease. So I can't use treats as rewards, but because the sheer sound of the brush sparks so much excitement and joy, we use that as the motivator.
Wow, that's amazing.
For his training. So again, it's all about learning your individual cat, what motivates them, what could you teach them to make their life less stressful. But also the other great thing about and this is just by default really, by training cats you can really develop the bond that you've got with them as well, and have some real some good fun. And cats are such good learners.
Oh yeah, they're incredible.
Really incredible.
Are those the kind of things you're going to be teaching on your new course? Or
some of the things, so my new course for cat owners or prospective owners or anyone who's interested in cats starts off really with a bit of information, the history of domestication of cats and cats as a species, the emotions and emotional sensitivity of cats, which often surprises people. Often people associate cats with attitudes and being a bit aloof, so to speak, and fiercely independent, which in some respects is true. So we're going to look at that. We are going to touch on the course on some of the challenges that are faced by cats, and also some of the other challenges as well are around human expectations. I think we welcome cats into our homes and our lives, forgetting sometimes that it's only in the last 50 or 60 years that cats have lived inside our homes. Initially, if you go back in time, we human and cat interactions became stronger when we wanted cats to live nearer to us to keep rodent levels down before we had adequate means of storing food, for example. And then gradually over time we began to notice actually how interesting these creatures are, and how lovely they are, how sweet they are, how affectionate they can be. So they now live in our homes with us, yet quite often we expect them to value the same things that we value. And again, people can refer to behaviour as naughty if the cat scratches something that is undesirable, but that's just natural behaviour for a cat. So we look at all of these things as well about managing human expectations, what we can do about some of those things. But also sometimes people might think, well, actually now I understand why all of those reasons why cats scratch things, actually that's okay. Now I know they're not doing it to Yeah, to be, you know, loads of people do refer to cats as naughty, or I've even heard spiteful and things like that.
Yeah.
It's just not in, you know, cats don't. Well, it's anthropomorphism, isn't it? It's associating human attributes to cats' behaviour, which is completely misaligned.
Yeah.
But often, when people understand more, they're willing to tolerate more, or can perhaps add additional features in their home to make sure that the cat has got adequate access for scratching and all those sorts of things. So we do expectations, trends, external influences, some of the things that we've talked about today, just to help people to become more mindful. I'm going to cover a little bit about so normal feline behaviour, the 5 freedoms, which you know, in accordance with the Animal Welfare Act, which a lot of people probably haven't heard of, and wants owners to feel confident that they know what that means as an owner and how they can, you know, really make sure that they are doing right by their cat in every sense, particularly when it comes to the you know, we've got a right to make sure that cats are living pain-free lives. That in itself with cats can be challenging because we know that cats hide pain. So it can be really difficult unless you know what you're looking for. You could unintentionally overlook some really subtle changes. And if they're not a problem for you as a human, you might not have any motivational purposes to take it any further. For example, it might be easy to overlook the fact that your old cat no longer, I don't know, jumps in the airing cupboard, and you might think, oh, they obviously don't like going in there anymore. But actually, if you think a little bit further, it might be that they can't go there anymore because perhaps it's painful for them to jump up. So, but people wouldn't necessarily know that cats hide pain. So that type of thing. And then some really fun stuff. So how to optimize our homes for cats, playtime, how to play with cats. We'll look at puzzle feeding. We will look at cats and other animals, multi-cat households, preventing problem behaviours, cats and children. How to develop bonds between cats and children, and then a little bit of training. But I think there's probably there's only so much we can do in the 18 hours that we've got. But there is, like, if people are interested, then I've got the opportunity to perhaps follow up with a training masterclass. But I want to help people to take away some practical strategies for making it easier to take cats to the vets. For example. So perhaps a little bit about training and transportation. And some finally some cost saving tips around ownership, because you know everybody is feeling the pinch at the moment, and there are certain things that we can do to save money without jeopardising health or well-being, such as looking at enrichment.
I saw
sorts of things we can do at home.
I saw a great video the other day of an enrichment.
What was it?
So it was on Mikel Delgado's in Instagram, and it was toilet tube holders, like the brown thing that's in the toilet roll or in the kitchen roll, and she just hid treats in or the kibble in some of them, and the cat just batted it down. It looked so fun. I mean,
it's really good fun. It's cheap. It's you know, it's not contributing to the plastic crisis that's another issue. And also, and I think anything we make at home, as long as it's safe, obviously, but it's also appealing to, you know, cats like novelty. And if they've got the same toys out all of the time, you know, they lose interest. But to come up with, you know, slightly different contraptions. I've also got, in fact, I'm sure it's here somewhere. I made a sensory box for Sparta, which is a little cardboard box, and inside, one of the things that's great for playing with is tissue paper.
Yeah.
We always go for plain tissue paper because I'm not sure about the dye and the dangers of dye in other tissue paper if they're biting it or whatever. But
Yeah.
it makes such a lovely crinkly sound. So for Spartan, what I do is I put his toys under tissue paper and sort of rustle them around, which mimics, what he would be doing, rustling around in leaves and under bushes and whatnot in the real world. And he loves that, and he loves shredding the paper as well. So we've got some tissue paper in there. We've got some toilet rolls, toilet roll holders as well, because they're great for putting paws into. Also got some clean feathers.
Amazing.
Some bits of string. And some dry food and those sorts of things, and he absolutely loves those. And they're all free.
And you watch him do it, and that's fun. And that's so cool. How can people find out more about your course and help?
So hopefully tomorrow, details of the course that I'm going to be delivering from Solihull College and University Centre in the West Midlands will be available on the website, which is www.solihull.ac.uk, and that will be under our adult and professional offer.
Great.
We've also got there's different courses in that area as well. There's understanding cats and their behaviour and understanding dogs and their behaviour as well. And these are face-to-face courses that we teach on the college campus. And I'll also be sharing these in my own LinkedIn profile as well tomorrow. And these are going to be the course is going to be on Saturday mornings, which is hopefully more accessible for people than weekday courses. And it's going to be 3 hours on a Saturday morning, every other Saturday over 12 weeks.
Nice.
So I'm really excited. I think that I imagine that we're going to have a lot of interest, because I think people genuinely love their cats and they want to know more. And people want their cats to be happy. And we all make some mistakes. I was saying to you, earlier on, looking back over my lifetime of living with cats, there's so many things now that I wish I'd done differently with some of my cats from many, many years ago. But I didn't have the knowledge then that I've got now, which I've only learned through the training and development that I've done in the last 10 years, and also working through some of the problems that I experienced with cats that I've had. My interest in cat behaviour came from a conversation with a vet about a cat I had at the time who kept weeing on the furniture.
Right.
And we couldn't work out why she was doing it. And we eliminated any medical causes, which is really, really important with any changes in any cat's behaviour. That's the very, very first thing that always has to be eliminated, because so many medical causes can manifest as behavioural issues. But she got a full bill of health, and the vet said, right, you need to try and work out then what is causing this. Is an emotional problem. I was devastated because I thought, oh my goodness, an emotional problem. I love her so much, and I thought I was doing everything right. And so she recommended a book, which I'm not going to tell you the name of, because the author has since said to me, it was written so long ago, she said it's out of date now.
All right.
It was great. And this is the thing, it's science, isn't it? And it's improving all the time, and we're learning more. So much research now into cats and behaviour that we're learning more and more and more all the time. But at the time, the book was up to date, and I was so fascinated by it. I learned so much. And through that, I was able to identify that the problem in this particular case with this cat was the fact that we had a cat flap.
Wow.
And it wasn't like now, you can get microchip cat flaps. But those didn't exist then. So we had a cat flap, which I thought, that's great. That gives her access to come and go as she pleases. But actually, it was also giving access to our kitchen, to another local cat. And of course, what was happening was she was marking her territory.
Bless her.
Now, replacing it with a microchip cat flap probably wouldn't have done the trick, because I would have known that that meant another cat can't come in, but she wouldn't have known. As far as she's concerned, she can get in, another cat could get in. So all we did, we just replaced it with a new panel in the door, and we adapted our pattern to, she used to go and stand by the door when she wanted to go out. I'd open the door for her, and then I'd regularly see if she was ready to come back in. And that quickly became the new normal for us. And the problem with the wean on the chair stopped almost overnight.
Amazing. That's so simple. Like,
yeah. It is. It's simple now. Now,
at the time, you're
but
like,
at the time it isn't. And as an owner, you know, it's so stressful when a cat is, I mean, particularly cat wee, because it's so strong. Nobody wants their home to smell of cat wee. And if you've just got, you know, you've just cleaned it up and you just start to think, oh, house is starting to smell normal again, and then it's the same again the next night. You know, I understand why people really feel that they're tearing their hair out, but quite often, just by you know, looking at it through a cat's eyes, and I call it cat detective skills, you know, you can work out what the problem is and take some steps backwards and you know, create a safer feeling for them.
Oh, bless. Oh, it's been so fascinating chatting to you. Thank you so much for taking the time and telling us your journey with cats, and you know,
my pleasure.
About all your pussy cats and how you've helped them and how you're helping others and educating people and just making the world a lot better and kinder and happier emotionally for cats. So thank you so much.
That's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. I never turn down an opportunity to talk about cats, especially with someone who's, you know, like-minded in terms of compassion and commitment to cat welfare. So hopefully we get the opportunity to work together again at some point in the future.
Amazing. Thank you, Nadia.
Thanks, Lisa.